With the world not aware of his identity as Iron Man, Tony Stark must contend with his declining health and eventual madman with ties to his father's legacy. This is my review of Iron Man 2. So I'm keeping to my schedule for the movies of Marvel Phase 1 that I have to watch before going to see Avengers Age of Ultron in May. And I rewatched this movie a few months ago. I liked the first Iron Man a whole lot. And after rewatching this movie, I remembered why I did not like Iron Man 2. Because I thought, after rewatching the movie, I thought the movie was meh. The good points. I believe I said this in the review for the first Iron Man movie, but just like in the first movie, I thought that Robert Downey Jr. had the role, he owned the role of Tony Stark / Iron Man. And there were other members of the cast I thought were good or did an alright job, but the person that did the best job would be Robert Downey Jr. But I will say that Gwyneth Paltrow did a good job as well with her chemistry with Robert Downey Jr. And I believe that was another good point that I said for the first Iron Man movie. Speaking of the first movie, I think another thing that was done well like the first movie would have to be the visual effects. I remember seeing this movie for the first time in theaters when it came out, that the visual effects were bad for some reason, but after rewatching the movie I didn't know what I was thinking because I thought the visual effects were actually good, and on par with the effects with the first Iron Man movie. The sound design was great too, and the part of the sound design that I liked the most was with the Iron Man suit. Again, this movie was directed by Jon Favreau just like the first movie. And I thought that Jon Favreau was doing his best with the action scenes in this movie. For the most part, I thought the editing and the pacing were done well. And the final good point of this movie would have to be the post-credit scene, which I'll talk about later on in the spoiler section. The bad points. So unlike this movie, I thought the writing for the first movie was done very well. But for this movie, I thought the writing could have been done better. And the main points that could have been written better would have to be the characters written for Mickey Rourke and Sam Rockwell, and their character stories and character development. Because at the end of this movie, I just felt like their characters didn't add anything to the movie, except for being bad villains. And that's another thing that could have been written better, which was the main story. Because after going from the first Iron Man movie into this Iron Man movie, the story just felt simple to me. And to me, it didn't feel like, oh my god, Tony Stark is going to develop even more after the story, because of the events that occurred. And I think that's what the movie was trying to go for, but for me, I didn't feel like they hit the exact points that they needed to hit. To be honest, I would have to say that this was Jon Favreau's worst movie that he's ever directed. Like I said before, I thought the action scenes they did were done well, and so were some other scenes that I did not mention. But as for the rest of the film they directed, I just didn't feel it. Because like the writing for the story of this movie, I just thought the rest of the movie, which he directed, just felt simple. So my rating for Iron Man 2 is going to be a 2 out of 4 stars. Again, like with The Incredible Hulk, if you're a fan of superhero movies or action movies, then you'll love this movie. But again, if you're not into the whole superhero or action genre type of movie, then you will not like this movie. Alright, spoilers for Iron Man 2. If you haven't seen this movie yet, then get out of here now, because I'll be spoiling the end credit scene for you. And if you're just thinking, well, it's just an end credit scene, like how bad could it be? Well, I think you should just see it for yourself still, so you can experience it for yourself and get the chills or the shivers. So as Agent Coulson said in the middle of the movie, he had to go to New Mexico for a new assignment. And the end credit scene starts with this car going through the desert. And the camera zooms in more and more on this car, and then the car stops, like, at this, like, huge crater. A person gets out, and we see it's Agent Coulson looking down at the crater. And then we get a shot of this crater, and in the crater, we see, like, a bunch of people, like, roaming around in there, and most of them are near the center of it. Then Coulson gets his phone out, turns to the camera, sort of diagonally, and he's like, "Sir, we found it." And then the camera is in the center of the crater, and then we pan a little bit to the left or the right, I can't remember which way, but it doesn't matter which way because we get panned a little bit over, and then we see the hammer. And that hammer belongs to Thor. And after I saw that, I was like, oh my god, we're getting a Thor movie? So that's my review of Iron Man 2. Hope you guys liked it, and other than that, guys, that's it.